And we're recording. And 3, 2. Hey everybody, it's Mucha Marapa from Matrix Global Media, and welcome to Ask the Experts, where we call on experts from different fields who are at the very top of their game, and we ask them to share with us their own specific journey, together with their perspective on the areas in which they specialize, together with some actionable tips that we can put into play right away. Now, today is a very special call for me because while I always make a point to only speak with authorities that I've learned from, my guest today is someone who, together with her equally wonderful and talented husband, has had a profound effect on my journey as a teacher, mentor, consultant, and now coach. So I am delighted to welcome Dr. Sharon Livingston, President and co-founder of the International Coach Certification Academy, and known among our circles as the Coach's Coach. Sharon, thank you so much for taking the time to be on Ask the Experts.
Thank you, Mucha. It's a delight to be here with you.
So Sharon, I like to start every interview taking a leaf out of the I Love Marketing podcast by Joe Polish and Dean Jackson, and I basically start saying, who is Dr. Sharon Livingston? And relative to coaching the coaches, why should coaches listen to you?
Oh, my goodness. Well, I could answer that question from so many different places. You know, my training is in psychology, and one of my specialties is creative process. And I help people get in touch with their various personality parts. And so at any given moment, you know, I'm a magician, and I'm an innocent, and I'm a caregiver. I think I play caregiver quite a bit. But I think that I have... I have this deck of cards. I don't even know if you've seen them, Mucha, but I have a deck of cards that are 160 different variations of archetypes.
The iconic cards.
Yes.
Oh, yes. Yes, indeed.
And I think the one that I identify with most often is the magical child, which is the combination of wizard and innocent. And, you know, the idea of everything is possible and having the ability to transform. So I see myself as a change artist, someone who can help people change.
Oh, fantastic. Now, needless to say, I think it's just by being in the sort of academy myself, I noticed that, you know, most people in there have had something in them from very early on. Maybe we didn't look at ourselves as coaches, but we always sort of had that willingness to help each other and help others move forward. What's your own coaching story? How, and I guess more importantly, why? Why did you sort of one day decide to say, okay, I am a coach and I can coach others?
So I am really a listener and an interviewer. And that might sound strange at times because I can be quite verbose at times and talk up a storm. But I became interested in learning about people when I was probably around 2 or 3. And at age 3, I had a working mother, and the only time I would see her was when she was home ironing like 27 shirts at a time, and she prided herself in ironing all my brothers and my dad's shirts. And I was the baby after everybody, the boys were, I had 3 older brothers who were pretty much grown. So my dad had shirts and my brothers had shirts, and we would go in the basement where it was cool in the summertime, and she would be ironing. And it was one of the rare times she was home. And I learned that if I asked her questions about herself, she would relate to me. So I learned that by inviting people to talk about themselves and find out about them, they became related to you. So
Wow.
It started when I was a tiny little girl, and I fine-tuned those skills, you know, through psychology and an interest in learning about myself and the rest of the world. And I got a lot of gratification out of helping someone talk. So that's kind of where it started, way back when I was a teeny tot, and Isabel might be doing that for you soon.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Was there a defining moment, Sharon, where, as opposed to you being somebody who quite freely helped those wanting help, and sort of someone would call and sort of rack your brains a little bit and you know, ask for your 2 cents worth, was there a defining moment when you actually thought, okay, I want to begin classifying this as coaching?
So I think when I was 13, I realized I wanted to be a psychiatrist. And then as I started like learning, and I had a lot of older people in my family who were interested in psychology as well. And I discovered in college that to be a psychiatrist, you had to go through medical school. And there was no way, I mean, I can't kill a bug. So there was no way I was going to be cutting up a cadaver. And I watched two of my brothers do that because sometimes they brought body parts home. That was not for me. So then it was, okay, I'm going to be a psychologist. Um, and, I have my PhD in psychology, and I love psychology, and I love helping people talk. I think my natural bent is to be a cheerleader. Mm. And, you see me do that in the academy a lot. And it was a major recognition that I was more about wanting to help people go from point A to their chosen point B than going back to minus B to find out what the problem was.
Yeah, no, I understand. And I suppose when you began to realize that people are coming to you and talking to you and looking towards you to sort of help them get to, move on and move forward, onwards and upwards. Was there a time then you felt that, I probably need to get my own sort of coach or my own people who can help me become a better coach? And if so, why was it important for you then to start sort of taking coaching yourself?
So I've been using the services of coaches for a long, long time, long before I became a coach myself. And the reason is that I'd heard about other people having wonderful results. So, for example, I went to a business coach very early on to try to think about what I wanted my business to be and to help it grow. I've gone to fitness trainers to coach me for building strong muscles. I've gone to weight loss coaches when I wanted to trim down. I have gone to, most recently, and this is while we're doing our coaching, but I work with a storytelling coach because I have a couple of books that I've been writing, and I went to a marketing conference, and it was like a month and a half before I was going to be giving a major talk to the American Marketing Association on archetypes and archetypes and branding. Mm-hmm. And there were three people there who were talking about storytelling and the importance of storytelling in marketing, whether it's for personal brands or for large brands, doesn't matter. One of them was so entrancing. Whatever he said, he painted a picture, he told a story, he drew you in so that you were walking on that dirt path that the soldiers were walking on, watching the burning buildings and seeing the older women huddled up in these old homes that were like fortresses now. And, oh my goodness, I could smell the fire.
Wow.
And I thought, wow, if I could tap some of that skill, maybe he could help me make my archetypal branding presentation more powerful. And so I worked with him for that whole period before I gave my presentation, and it made a huge difference. And then, I got standing ovation. It was really nice. So then I realized that I had not been making the progress that I wanted on my books. I had more than one. And so I started working with him. And right now I've got 90 pages written of this one particular book. And instead of it being something that's difficult, it's a joy. I wake up wanting to write this book. And it's a tribute to his ability to coach me and invite me to think in a positive way about what I'm talking about. And I think that if you can, as a coach, help someone who's come to you deal with their resistance so they can joyfully move ahead and climb up that tall mountain. I mean, what's better than that? It's a blessing. It's an absolute blessing. Did I lose you?
No, I'm here, Sharon. Sorry, I put myself on mute, so I just I'm here. I'm here.
Okay.
Um, I think one really interesting thing from sort of working with both you and Glenn and being in the academy was the real eye-opener about the different areas of coaching. And I mean, you even created a book on the coaching niches, as we say in this part of the world. And I suppose it's so in line. You look at sports teams where you have a coach for this particular type of team or this position or that position, and yet in life, like what you were saying, for the longest time we limited it to a life coach or a business coach and nothing in between. But you're saying that you've had coaches to help. I mean, a coach to help you write a book.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Wow, fantastic. That's fantastic. So Sharon, moving over now to the International Coach Certification Academy, how's it going from your standpoint? I mean, I'm in there with my other coaches every single week. We love it. But from your standpoint, how are things going? If you were to give us a bit of a sort of, a progress update.
I think it's going phenomenally well. It's better than my best dreams. And I'll tell you why. And this is a tribute to my husband's ability to write up a description of what people can expect, and to the fact that what he's written has captured something essential about what we're offering. And so what's so exciting to me about it is the people who have come to the program, they come from all walks of life. The thing they have in common is they're all very bright. They all have a passion about doing something good in the world. And they have very different interests. I mean, we've got people who are helping people adopt kids. We have people who are helping people who've got adult ADHD, working with kids with ADHD, working with people who have breathing difficulties with asthma and how to deal with that. Discovering your feminine power, discovering your masculine power, working with to improve marriages. I mean, on and on and on. How to become an IT consultant, how to publish your book, how to self-publish. One thing after another, one topic that I never even would have guessed, that go beyond the 101 niches that we have in our ebook. It's enthralling to me that so many people with so many varied interests come together, support each other. They've created this beautiful community of support where everybody learns from everyone, including Glenn and I are learning from these people as well as helping them learn. So it's a huge, fulfilling blessing in my life. And I don't know how else to say how beautiful the experience is. It's, I knew that we'd be helping people. I didn't realize how much I'd be gaining from helping. It's fabulous.
No, that's fantastic. And I suppose then moving on, what inspired the decision to create this with Glenn? Because, it was very clear that both you and Glenn are sort of, high achievers in different sort of fields prior to becoming synonymous with the academy. Glenn with what he's doing, on the various marketing side with some of his programs and his joint ventures and teaching, and then you, I mean, you really sort of, you're very well respected in the world in doing what you do on this, which it will be good if you tell us about that. So why did you decide to sort of say, okay, we're going to create an academy and we're going to put our sort of heart and soul into that?
So there are several reasons, and there are probably reasons I don't even understand myself. But when Glenn and I first got married, we decided we were going to have a baby right away. And then we both freaked out, and that was 26 years ago. And I continue to work in the field of marketing research, and I've taught people how to use techniques from psychology, usually called projective techniques, to really understand what customers want and what specifically you can do to help them have it. How do you create products that are meaningful and fulfill their needs and are authentic? So I had been doing that for a long time, and it was a very big business, and Glenn was a therapist for a while. And then he fell in love with the marketing side through, he learned about marketing through my business, and then he took it to the internet and created his own direct marketing business. And so we were both very happy doing that, but there were some things that were not perfect. So, for example, the work I do requires me to travel a lot. And I love my husband, I love my dogs, I love my home. And I wasn't as excited about doing that because, it's a lot of years to be on a plane and not being with my, favorite person in the whole world. Mm. So that was one thing. But another thing is that I've always wanted to be giving to the world. And, and I think that in doing marketing research, I do create a really wonderful environment, and people in the back room would always say, wow, you're doing therapy with them, or you're helping them, and these people, wow, they tell you everything. And then sometimes they look at me and they say, can I tell you about blah, 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 blah. Mm-hmm. And that would happen all the time. So I've always known that I have that gift. Mm. And the other part, working in large corporations, you find out too much. Like I know too much. And what I mean by that is, do you know that some pharmaceuticals come out and they're only 20% effective, and they charge big amounts for what this is, and you could probably do better taking some golden seal or some natural herbal remedy. And it started bothering me. And I want to help people and I want to do good things, but if it's only 20% effective and that gets through the FDA, there's something wrong with that. And then if you work on pet food. So cats are supposed to have meat. Cats are carnivores. And so, for example, there are some brands out there like Meow Mix, for example, I've discovered makes a lot of cats sick because there's so much grain in it. Cats aren't supposed to eat grain. And how can you feel good about helping companies market something that's got some tragic flaw in it? Mm-hmm. And, the bigger the profit motive sometimes, the bigger the flaw.
Gotcha.
So, sometimes I think, gosh, I should write an expose, and then I think, oh yeah, they'll kill me.
Yeah. No, I understand. I
better be careful what I say. But the more essential thing is that I love people. I see the good in people. And I think that everyone has good in them. And I want to cheerlead that. I want to encourage that. And, I have this skill. I've been taught all these skills. And, I want to bring it to real people. And there's something that happens in a corporation where it's they're not real anymore. The corporation takes over and the person gets, it's like Joe and the Volcano. Did you ever see that movie from a long time ago?
Yeah. I think also what happens is that corporations, obviously, they get their own culture, don't they? Right. A lot of the time stemming from whoever's there at the top and what they're about. I remember working in one environment in sales where the owners, actually thought it was good for there to be a bit of aggravation between employees because they thought it made us more competitive, if you like. And this filtered down,
That's awful.
And sometimes I think going into situations that you can't sort of control, and also where you can possibly, you can see bigger wins when you do something a little bit more personal, which is certainly what's happening within the academy there,
And so this is the other part of it. So here it is, 26 years later. Glenn and I think, went through a period where we wanted to finally have a baby. And a baby isn't necessarily Isabella, right? A baby could be the coaching academy. And I think it has become our love child. And all of you in the academy, it feels, I feel like Mother Nature, and I've had all these, flowers and trees growing in my backyard. So
Let me share something so poignant in line with what you said. Okay, so we're speaking now the Wednesday after Father's Day, aren't we?
yes.
And I at my church on Sunday there was a Father's Day service, and one of the elders stood up there and he actually made a point of saying, and although, we talk about fathers and biological fathers and so on and so forth, he says, this is also honor to honor the human beings and the men who are like father figures that nurse your ambitions and mentor you and all the rest of it. And you know what, Sharon, I was tempted to come and write Glenn the soppiest email and just say to him, I was so close, and the fact that you brought this up now in this interview, I can share this with you, because I was tempted just to say, hey Glenn, I appreciate you, thanks for everything you've done, and it was really brought to my attention by someone saying, hey listen, don't just think it's sort of the dad who fathered you, it's sometimes somebody who's just there to keep an eye out on you and help you along and really support you along the way. So I think that's really wonderful that that's how you feel about it and feel about us.
It really is, and I know for a fact that he feels very fond of you as well.
Oh, that's great. That's great. So when we do talk about the academy, what are the hopes and the aspirations? If we were to sort of fast forward, 18 months or maybe a couple more years, and that, what would you hope to have seen within that in order for you to feel, yes, we're moving right along?
I think we'll be training a lot of people in the basic kinds of things, but there will also be specialties that they can look into. I'm a fan of the Myers-Briggs. I know you know that. We just completed a group coaching class. We're going to have classes in personal branding and creating presentations. There'll be all kinds of places where they can learn how to take their training even further. And, and I think different things will be attractive to different people. I think we're going to have a wellness program, which I'm beginning to work on. We'll have a dream program. We're going to have a hypnosis program. So it's going to be like a nice smorgasbord of all kinds of things that can be helpful to people.
Fantastic. So Sharon, one of the real benefits for someone like myself actually being in the academy is that I have the opportunity to try things out and sort of, make a few mistakes and yet have a really helpful community there to point me in the right direction, including yourself, Glenn, and some of the other coaches. But in the big old wide world, where you've got some coaches who sort of are coming from the right place, full intentions, want to help people, if we were to list three big mistakes that you see happening time after time, what would you say they are?
So I think the biggest mistake is not getting your own coaching. And as you can tell, I'm really committed to that. I've been doing that basically my whole life. And I think that it's a mistake to limit your learning. Mm. And, Glenn and I, both of us are lifelong learners, because there's always something new that it's probably developmental also. There's something in my psychology that I'm ready to learn now, and the more that I grow, the more that I can help somebody else. And people are going to come to you with all kinds of issues, no matter what they present. Mm-hmm. And as they're trying to get to their goal, and you're taking them from that A to B, there are different aspects that you might cover that you might not be as well prepared if you don't continue with your own training. Mm-hmm. So sometimes we have this belief that we have to rely on ourselves. If we don't do it ourselves, it doesn't count. And thank goodness I dropped that many, many years ago, because the more resources I can avail myself of, the wider, broader, more of a whole person I am when someone is coming to me and needs help.
Yeah.
So I think the biggest mistake is to limit one's learning.
Mm. Okay. And we have a couple more.
Secondarily, if you are coaching, you must go through the experience yourself. You must. Mm. Because how can you really understand what it's like to be on the other side if you haven't done it?
Yeah.
And I guess third, it's telling people what to do.
Could you elaborate on that?
So some people get coach mixed up with mentor or teacher, and a great coach helps you recognize your strengths and helps you come to your answers, what's best for you.
Mm.
You know, it's to develop your strengths rather than to tell you what to do.
Okay.
Now, you know, some people will be coaching on things like, I mean, you could have a knitting coach, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there are a couple of different ways that you can create a knit stitch. There's like the American way, there's a European way, I think they call it continental or versus American. And you can, so even the knitting teacher could be offering different ways of doing a basic knit stitch or a purl stitch. There are different ways. And there's not one right way. And maybe even as you see what the stitch looks like, you find your own way. So while there are some basic things that you might teach even as a coach, depending upon what your niche is, or your niche, as you would say, there still needs to be an open hand. Mm-hmm. It's about the learner, not about the teacher.
You know, one of the very early supervision sessions we had, and I was in a session with both you and Glenn, and I remember, you know, Glenn gave me the mic, I talked a little while, and I came away, and, you know, it wasn't about necessarily Glenn sort of only understanding my situation. He made me understand my own situation better, you know? And Sharon, it was such a massive eye-opener to me, you know, and so I do understand, you know, that difference between coaching and consulting and mentoring. That's fantastic. So when we move on here, though, and I don't think I'm speaking out of place when I say that I feel that you take a particular, you know, shine to other coaches. You know, you're cheering them on, you respect what they're doing, and while you would be able to coach your chief executive or anybody else wanting to do something, why is it that you particularly enjoy coaching coaches, Sharon?
They have passion. They have passion for some particular aspect of something that they figured out and they want to help people with. And there is something delightful about that. You don't see it as much in executive coaching. You don't see it as much, you know, in business coaching. Please forgive me for, you know, for saying that.
Sure.
But, you know, like if you go into a large corporation, you're dealing more with the pain. Mm-hmm. And with the people who have chosen to be coaches, they, you know what, it's kind of like a rebirth. It's like they've gotten to a stage in their lives where they're doing what they've always wanted to do.
Yeah.
And it's like watching a birth, except that it's with someone with intelligence, and you know they're full of joy, they're full of passion about, wow, I know what I want to do. This is what I want to do. I've always wanted to do it, and I've been doing this thing and that thing and the other thing, and yeah, it was okay, and I learned from it. But this is what makes me feel good about myself. And how could you not love that?
Mm-hmm. No, fantastic. So on the flip side, what is your advice to those who tend to be a little bit sort of skeptical about coaching? You touched on it a little earlier, where people, you know, and I don't want to necessarily say old school, but, you know, you get some sort of folks who grew up in that sort of environment where somebody says, oh no, I've just got to rely on number one, you know, I just, you know, or pull myself together, I have up days and down days and so on and so forth. What would your advice be to those who don't necessarily feel that coaching can play a role?
So how many of us would educate ourselves, you know, go to kindergarten, go to grammar school, go to secondary school, go to college? I mean, how could you educate yourself if you didn't do that? There aren't too many people who would educate themselves and find the books on their own, or, you know, learn how to do math, or who would learn how to read if we didn't have school? And so, to me, the coaching that I've taken for myself has been like a series of different degrees that I've gotten in college.
Yeah.
Because there are opportunities to learn more. And it's kind of like, I'm trying to think of an analogy. I don't want to use, like a therapy analogy would be, if you had a broken bone, you wouldn't go set it yourself. You would go to the doctor. So I'm trying to make that into a coaching analogy. And, like if I wanted to learn how to do math, I can't imagine trying to figure it out myself and not going to someone who already knows how to do it.
And this is where I think there's so much irony, because certainly in the sort of direct response marketing / copywriting space and world, the one thing that's really impressed upon us, and I know it would be the same for any other industry, is to adopt, like what you said earlier on, a learning culture that shouldn't be actually benign. It should be expected of you. And the ones that study the most tend to be the ones that move forward. And it just really doesn't cease to amaze me how we grow up, like you said, being encouraged and at times told, go to school, go to class, there's a big importance on learning. And then when we get out into the big old wide world, it almost stops.
Which is insane, right? So, why wouldn't you want to continue learning? Gosh, I hope I do that every minute of my life.
Yeah, indeed.
And it just makes me a fuller, more educated, more experienced person. So, and what's so great about a coach is that they have a lot of experience that I don't have. Like my storytelling coach, for example. Gosh, he has really helped me to crystallize what I need to do, rather than going around and around and around in these constant circles where I don't get anything done. John Chancellor, who with Glenn heads up our productivity coaching, and, some people call it accountability. People talk to him for 15, 20 minutes at a time about something they want to accomplish, and oh my gosh, now they're accomplishing it.
Yeah.
How fabulous is that?
No, I totally agree. So in line with that, Sharon, for anybody who, I suppose, to this stage has enjoyed being there for others and offering advice, they've always been the one that close friends and associates will call or want to speak to when something goes up. What would your advice be to those kind of aspiring coaches who now, for want of a better word, want to go pro, want to go to that next level?
Well, first of all, to think about the types of people you really enjoy working with. And I would really recommend choosing that kind of person rather than taking on the challenge of the hardest person in the world to help. I think that some people, when they first start out in psychology, for example, they think that they're only going to be valuable if they take on the hardest person, and that can really kill your spirit. So, because if you have a lot of challenges and they're the hardest people in the world and they don't come along, then it's easy to take it on yourself like you did something wrong. So I recommend thinking about the kinds of people who love to talk to you, who love to work with you, who you've seen do well, and thinking about how to concentrate whatever your coaching specialty is with that kind of person. So even before you pursue coaching further, think about how you might want to start creating your practice. And one of the most important things is who you're going to be helping.
Yeah. So, and again, you make that point for a reason, don't you? Just become laser targeted on exactly what it is you're coaching.
Right. So once you know who it is, think about how it is you want to help them, what they need. What are they looking for? And we say this in the coaching academy all the time. Like, people don't wake up in the morning thinking, "Oh my God, I need a life coach." They wake up in the morning thinking, "How on earth am I going to get a raise?
Yeah.
I need to get a raise. It's about time. They've been overlooking me." And it's not just the raise. It's I want the acknowledgement for my hard work, or what am I going to do about my acting out teenage kid? Or, how am I going to make my relationship better? It's really, it needs to get better. This has been really frustrating. Or, oh my goodness, how am I going to get through my math class? Or, so they wake up with a problem. And so you have to think about, well, what kinds of problems do I have a lot of experience with and I think I can help them solve? Mm-hmm. And think about, we talk about going into Amazon.com, for example, looking up your topic and seeing what's been written on it, to see how people are talking about it. So you start thinking through what the niche is, how you can serve it, how you might want to help people. Do you have a program? Is it going to be just ongoing one-on-one coaching? And that is the kind of thing that you can get help with in a good coaching course. Mm-hmm. So good coaching courses will do a few things. One of them is they will give you tips on how to be a coach. What things differentiate a coach from being a psychotherapist, from being a counselor, from being a teacher, from being a mentor. They all have value and they're different.
All right.
If you just want to be someone who helps people with whatever problems to go back in their past, maybe you should be going back to school for a degree in psychology. Mm-hmm. But if you have a specific area where you can help, that's a time to think about coaching.
Okay.
And you want to find a program that will help you learn basic coaching techniques, what kinds of things work to help the client get from point A to B, how do you get them towards their goal. You also will probably do better in a place that has an active community where people are very supportive and help each other. That has been one of the most valuable things that I've seen come out of the whole program that we put together. It's the people who support each other within the program, and they're, people are on our private Facebook page helping each other all the time. They practice together. They give ideas when people have questions. And so I think that's really important to have a functioning community. And you're only as good as getting people to knock on your door. So you need to find out ways to build your practice, because you could be the best coach in the world, and if no one's knocking at your door, that'll be very frustrating. Mm-hmm. So I think those are the kinds of things you need to think about, find for yourself and work on.
Wow, that's terrific stuff. So as we sort of move towards wrapping up here, Sharon, we've just obviously finished the 4-week group coaching program, which I was part of and which I just absolutely loved. Thank you again for that. That was
You're welcome.
That was awesome, wasn't it? Really great. So as we move forward, what's, for you, Dr. Sharon Livingston, the coach's coach, what have you got planned over the next 18 months?
So the kinds of things I was talking about, creating more programs, and I'm really looking forward to putting together the hypnosis training program, because there are aspects of hypnosis that we do to each other every single day without knowing it. And if you know what that is, you know how to use it to help cheerlead people on, I think that's going to be very exciting for a lot of coaches. And, the Myers-Briggs program that we are releasing, I think is going to be really helpful to people. And I call it Myers-Briggs. It's really a personality preference kind of approach, because it incorporates things from Myers-Briggs as well as from other aspects. And the DREAM program, it's just all wonderful stuff that I'm looking forward to. We're going to be building all kinds of, to me they're like tasty morsels.
Yeah, indeed. And no doubt within that you'll also be very much helping coaches one-on-one, as you so wonderfully do at the moment.
Oh yeah, so I just took that for granted. So I do coach coaches one-on-one, and what happens is sometimes, well, for all the reasons that I said before, it's really, even while you're studying to become a coach, it's great to have your own coach and go through the process to help you go to meet your goals. Mm-hmm. So yeah, so that's been growing very nicely, and I'm delighted about it. Thank you for bringing it up.
No problems. So before we go, Sharon, where can people actually find you online? Where can they sort of learn more about the great stuff that you and Glenn are doing? What would your suggestion be on the back of this this interview here, where people can learn more about you?
So you go to www.coachcertificationacademy.com, and it's a very deep site. You can find lots of things to learn about. You'll see Glenn there. You'll see me there. We have a very active blog, which has lots and lots and lots of free information. That's a really great place to start. And people can get in touch with me personally at Sharon at CoachCertificationAcademy.com if they have any questions. And I'm delighted to help.
Fantastic. I'll put all those links down on this page so people can find that and find you. So I guess all that's left now is for me just to say thank you for taking the time to do this interview, but in a much bigger scale, Sharon. Thank you for everything that you and Glenn have done and continue to do for me. I feel incredibly privileged.
Well, Mucha, we feel the same about you, and thank you for continuing to share your pictures.
Oh, you're most welcome. Thanks, Sharon. Thanks ever so much for taking the time.
Thank you, Mucha.